Emma adjusted her hair while observing her reflection in the elevator mirror. Another exhausting day at the office was coming to an end. Outside, the rain was falling incessantly, transforming the city streets into rivers of concrete. She sighed, thinking about the walk to the subway that awaited her. Upon leaving the building, Emma opened her red umbrella, a gift from her mother Margaret on her last birthday. The cold wind cut against her face, making her huddle inside her coat. The city lights reflected in the puddles, creating an almost magical scene, if not for the melancholy that hung in the air. It was then that she saw him. A man huddled on the sidewalk, leaning against the wall of an abandoned building. His clothes were drenched and dirty, and he was visibly trembling. Emma felt a tightness in her chest. Something about that scene touched her deeply, bringing to the surface memories she preferred to keep buried. Emma was only 12 years old when her older brother Nathan left the family. She vividly remembered that night, the shouting, the slamming doors, her mother's silent crying. Nathan at 18 was the pride of the family, intelligent, charismatic, with a promising future ahead of him. But vices consumed him. Drugs, parties, the wrong company. All of that turned him into someone Emma barely recognized. On that fateful night, Nathan took the family savings, the result of years of Margaret's hard work, and left without looking back. He left behind a sick mother and a sister who idolized him. Emma remembered sitting on the porch for hours, waiting for him to return and apologize. But he never came back. The years that followed were difficult. Margaret, who was already battling a chronic illness, saw her health worsen. Emma, still a child, had to grow up too fast. While her friends played with dolls, she learned to manage her mother's medications and take care of the house. Nathan's absence was like a black hole, sucking the joy and hope from the family, but time, as always, took its course. The wounds, although never completely healed, did scar over. Emma graduated, got a good job, and could now provide a comfortable life for her and her mother. Margaret, after years of treatment, was better. They had learned to be happy again, even with the shadow of the past always present. Looking at the man on the sidewalk, Emma felt a mix of compassion and fear. For a moment, she wondered if that could be Nathan. She shook her head, dismissing the thought. Nathan was probably somewhere far away, living the life he chose. Impulsively, Emma approached the man. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly. The man looked up, revealing a face marked by time and hardships. "Are you hungry? I could buy you dinner." The man looked at her with suspicion, as if trying to decipher her intentions. After a few seconds of silence, he nodded slightly. Emma helped him up, and together they walked to a small nearby restaurant. The place was cozy, with soft lights and wooden tables. The smell of homemade food filled the air, making Emma's stomach growl. They sat at a table in the corner, away from the curious glances of the other patrons. Emma ordered 2 dishes of the day and watched as the man ate ravenously. She tried to make conversation a few times, but he only responded with monosyllables. His eyes, however, seemed to tell a story of pain and regret. When they finished the meal, Emma paid the bill and prepared to say goodbye. That was when the man finally spoke, his voice hoarse and hesitant. "Why did you do this?" Emma smiled gently. "Sometimes we all need a little kindness," she replied. The man nodded, as if he understood exactly what she meant. Before leaving, he removed the hood that partially covered his face. Emma's heart raced. Those eyes, that nose, that scar on the chin. It was Nathan, her brother, the man she had imagined 1,000 times but never really expected to meet again. Nathan seemed to notice the shock on her face. For a moment, recognition gleamed in his eyes. But before Emma could say anything, he muttered a quick "thank you" and disappeared through the door into the rainy night. Emma stood frozen, her heart pounding so loudly she could hear it. Thousands of thoughts and emotions overwhelmed her. Anger, sadness, relief, confusion. She wanted to run after him, demand explanations, hug him, scream at him. But her feet seemed glued to the ground. When she finally managed to move, Nathan had already disappeared into the city streets. Emma walked back home in a state of torpor, tears mixing with the rain on her face. Upon arriving home, she found Margaret watching TV in the living room. Her mother immediately noticed that something was wrong. "Emma, dear, what happened?" Emma collapsed on the sofa, sobbing. Through her tears, she told Margaret about the encounter with Nathan. Her mother hugged her tightly, her own silent tears falling onto her daughter's hair. That night, mother and daughter reminisced about the past, spoke about the pains they carried, and discussed the possibility of forgiving Nathan one day. Margaret, with her years of wisdom, said to Emma, "Daughter, always remember, for if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you." It's not easy, but forgiveness frees not only the one who is forgiven, but mostly the one who forgives. The days that followed were an emotional roller coaster for Emma. She found herself looking at every person on the street, hoping to see Nathan. She even returned to the restaurant several times, hoping to find him. But he seemed to have disappeared once again. Life, however, does not stop. Emma continued her routine, working, taking care of Margaret, living. But something had changed within her. The encounter with Nathan, brief as it was, rekindled feelings she thought she had long buried. The years passed. Emma was promoted at work, bought a larger apartment for herself and Margaret, made new friends. The pain of Nathan's abandonment, although never completely forgotten, became a less painful scar. It was on a Sunday afternoon, almost 5 years after that unexpected dinner, that everything changed again. Emma was preparing lunch when the phone rang. Margaret answered, and after a few moments of silence called her daughter with a trembling voice. "Emma, it's Nathan." With a racing heart, Emma picked up the phone. The voice on the other end was familiar but different, more mature, more serene. "Hi, Emma. It's me, Nathan. I would like to invite you and Mum to dinner. If you would like, of course." Emma remained silent for a few seconds, trying to process what she was hearing. Part of her wanted to hang up, to protect herself and her mother from more disappointments. But another part, a part she didn't know still existed, longed for this moment. "Where?" she finally asked. Nathan gave the address of a restaurant downtown. They agreed to meet him the following night. Emma and Margaret spent the rest of the day in a state of nervousness and expectation. They discussed what to wear, what to say, whether they should really go. Margaret, despite all the pain she carried, seemed more open to the possibility of reconciliation. Emma, on the other hand, oscillated between hope and fear. On the night of the meeting, the two arrived at the restaurant early. It was an elegant place, quite different from the small establishment where Emma and Nathan had dined years ago. They sat at a table near the window, anxiously watching everyone who entered. And then he appeared. Nathan entered the restaurant, and for a moment, Emma had difficulty recognizing him. He was well dressed, with his hair neatly arranged and a calm demeanor. His eyes, once dull and empty, now shone with a serenity that Emma had never seen before. Upon seeing them, Nathan smiled, a genuine smile, full of emotion. He approached the table slowly, as if fearing they might disappear at any moment. "Mum, Emma," he said, his voice choked. Margaret immediately stood up, hugging her son tightly. Emma remained seated, watching the scene with a mix of emotions. When they finally sat down, the initial silence was uncomfortable. Nathan cleared his throat and began to speak. I don't even know where to start. First, I want to ask for forgiveness. I know what I did is unforgivable, but..." Emma interrupted him. "Why now, Nathan? Why after so long?" Nathan took a deep breath. "That dinner 5 years ago, it was a turning point for me. Seeing you, Emma, treating me with such kindness, without knowing who I was. It made me realize how far I had fallen, how much I had lost." He continued, explaining how, after that night, he decided to change his life. He sought treatment for his addictions, found a support group, got a job. Gradually, he rebuilt his life. "I wanted to come back before," he explained, "but I was ashamed. I didn't want the last memory you had of me to be of a defeated man. I wanted to prove, especially to myself, that I could be better." Margaret held her son's hand, silent tears streaming down her face. Emma remained silent, processing everything she was hearing. Nathan continued, "I know that asking for forgiveness doesn't erase what I've done. I know I've caused pain and suffering. But I'm here, with an open heart, asking for a second chance. A chance to be part of your lives again, if you allow me." The silence that followed was heavy. Emma looked at her mother, who nodded slightly, as if giving permission for her daughter to express her feelings. "Nathan," Emma began, her voice trembling slightly, "you have no idea how much your departure affected us. Mum got even sicker, and I had to grow up overnight. We spent years wondering where you were, if you were okay, if you would ever come back." Nathan lowered his eyes, guilt evident on his face. Emma continued, But I also know that everyone deserves a second chance. Mom always taught me about the importance of forgiveness. It won't be easy, and it will take time, but I'm willing to try." Nathan's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," he whispered. "I promise I will do everything to deserve this chance." The rest of the dinner was a mix of tears, nervous laughter, and stories. Margaret talked about her recovery and how Nathan's absence had made her stronger. Emma shared her professional and personal achievements. At the end of the night, when they said goodbye at the restaurant door, the hug they exchanged was different. It was no longer laden with hurt or resentment, but instead with hope. A timid hope, true, but real. In the months that followed, Nathan became a constant presence in Emma and Margaret's lives. Sunday lunches, frequent calls, good morning messages. Gradually, he regained the family's trust. Emma, who initially had her reservations, began to see her brother in a new light. She realized that the Nathan who had returned was not the same who had left years ago. This was a mature man, aware of his mistakes and determined to make a difference. A year after that reconciliation dinner, the family gathered to celebrate Margaret's birthday. Nathan arrived with a special gift, a carved wooden box. Inside it, there were several notes of money. "It's the money I took when I left," he explained. "I spent years saving to give it back. I know it doesn't erase what I did, but—" Margaret interrupted him with a hug. "Son, the greatest gift you could give us has already been given. Your presence, your love, your change." Emma watched the scene, feeling a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She understood at that moment the true meaning of forgiveness. It wasn't about forgetting the past, but about allowing the future to be different. She looked at Nathan, who was smiling as he helped Margaret cut the cake. Her brother, once lost, now found. Emma felt a wave of gratitude filling her heart. Gratitude for the second chance, for the courage to forgive, for the strength of her family in overcoming adversity. And there, in that room full of love and forgiveness, Emma understood that sometimes the greatest miracles happen in the most unexpected moments. A simple act of kindness on a rainy night had triggered a series of events that culminated in this family reunion. A living proof that love, when genuine, has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.